All right, hi, my name is Anuj Karpatne, and today I'll be talking about a joint research project that we have just started to work on, which is about modeling the food, energy, water nexus in critical biodiverse landscapes. There are two regions of study that we focus on in this project. The first is the Tonle Sap lake that is in Cambodia, that is home to a rich variety of fish species, plants, and animals that support the livelihood of a growing population by rice farming and by fishing. The second region of study is in the state of Washington, that is home to the Tuareg tribe, that is basically a fishing and farming community. And both these regions share a number of commonalities in the food, energy, water nexus that they encounter. The major source of food is rice farming and fishing, both of which are affected by water. Water also drives the energy component, especially in Cambodia because of the recent thrust and dam constructions in the upper portions of Mekong. Apart from the food and energy components, water also provides another ecosystem resource, which is the biodiversity in these regions. So the sustainability of this nexus is threatened by a number of factors. First, the growing dam constructions have a lot of ecological impact as they alter the natural flood and drought cycles that the local species rely upon. They also impact the water quantity and quality that in turn affects the food productivity in these regions. Second, the nexus is also impacted by climate change. For example, the large-scale droughts that are going on in these regions, in the entire Mekong Basin. And there are a number of human actions, such as overfishing and forest clearing, that affect the biodiversity in these regions. And the growing population places growing demands on the food productivity. So to monitor this nexus and to understand its vulnerability, there are three primary research goals that we are focusing on in our project. The first is to monitor ecosystem resources, for example, forests, farms, water bodies, using remote sensing data. And an example effort in this direction is the creation of a global surface water monitoring system that can look at changes occurring in water bodies. Using this information, we would like to model the nexus and project future scenarios of how the ecosystem will behave under different development strategies. An example effort in this direction is the MIMES product that is specific to Cambodia. And we would also like to disseminate the information using interactive visualization tools for a variety of stakeholders, such as the local fishermen, the farmers, and also the policymakers. And an example effort in this direction is the MIDAS product, also for Cambodia. So this just gives a high-level overview of the broader research goals of this project. And this is a recent project that we have started to work on. There are multiple partners working on different aspects of different research goals. What I'll be focusing on in the remainder of this talk is my specific contribution to this project, which is about creating a global surface water monitoring system using remote sensing data. This has applications for modeling the nexus as well as a number of other societally relevant applications. So there is a variety of remote sensing data available from different satellite sources that capture different types of information about the Earth's surface at different spatial and temporal resolutions. A number of these are available as spatio-temporal raster grids that provide the spatial as well as temporal view of how the Earth's surface is changing. Using this data, we are interested in creating a global surface water monitoring system that can map the changes happening in water bodies, identify which water bodies are growing in size, shrinking in size. And this is important for a number of reasons, such as understanding the impact of climate change and human actions on surface water dynamics. This problem can be treated as a classification problem where for every location on the Earth at 500-meter resolution using MODIS data, and at every 8 days starting from 2000, we want to assign a label of water or land. So we are using multispectral remote sensing signals to do this job. So for example, given an input remote sensing image like this, we would like to create an output classification map where blue is water and green is land for every time step. And we have ground truth data available for some specific dates that we can use to train such a classifier. However, there are a number of challenges in using existing supervised learning methods to achieve this task. The first challenge is that of the heterogeneity of land and water categories in the remote sensing signals across space and time, because water and land look very different in different parts of the world and at different times. And moreover, water in some part of the world can look similar to land in some other part of the world, creating class confusion, which makes the problem even more complex. The second challenge is that of poor data quality that is associated with remote sensing data because of clouds and aerosols. So we are looking at a lake in China, and whenever you see the blue, that represents the water, green represents land, and whenever you see the pink pixel, that represents missing values. So you can see that the dynamics of the water, the blue pixels, is occluded by a high degree of missing values that we have to differentiate from. So to overcome these challenges, we have been developing a number of computer science innovations, and this slide just gives a high-level overview of these methods. For more details, please stop by my poster. So to address the challenge of heterogeneity, we have been developing ensemble learning methods where we are developing different classifiers to distinguish between different types of water and land categories. And then for a given lake at a given time, we would like to select a set of classifiers that are most relevant in its local context. To handle poor data quality, we have been looking at physics-guided post-classification refinement methods where we would first infer the elevation structure of the water bodies using imperfect labels, and then use that elevation structure to impose constraints so that we can refine the classification labels. So using these advances, we have created a prototype global surface water monitoring system that is publicly available. It provides the dynamics of all major surface water bodies across the world that are greater than 2.5 square kilometers. They are shown as blue dots in this particular image. And for every such blue dot, we can click on them and analyze its dynamics over time. So if I look at an example reservoir in Mexico, I can construct time series of the following nature, where I'm looking at the surface area of water in this region across time. So I can see that the surface area initially decreases, and then it increases, and then there is a lot of dynamics going forward in time. To verify such changes, we can use the Google time lapse that provides annual Landsat composite images of every region over time. And what we can see is that the water body grows and shrinks in accordance with the trends in the time series. So to identify such changes, we came up with a very simple taxonomy where every blue dot, every water body has been colored as either red or green. Red dots are regions where the water body is increasing in size. So here is an example time series of a red dot. Green is where the water body is decreasing in size. So with this very simple taxonomy, we can start to see some very interesting patterns of change emerging. For example, a cluster of greens over here, and there are reds and greens. Every such pattern has its own unique story, and we can see such patterns all over the world. What I'll be doing for the remainder of the talk is to focus on some of these patterns and see what's happening. So the first example of change is in Tibet, where we can see that there are a lot of red dots, which means that all of these water bodies are growing in size. Every blue dot, every red dot over here is a glacial lake that is expanding in size because of the increase in temperature in these regions. So if I zoom in into these regions, I can see the water bodies, and the red polygons that you see in this image are the areas that have actually converted from land to water. So you can see where the glacial lakes have expanded. And here is another view of a different region. And you can see that all of these water bodies have these red polygons around them, showing the increase in area. To verify that, we can look at the time lapse and see that the water is indeed expanding right over here. And here is another example where we see that this entire region gets submerged by water. So this system enables us to quantify the changes happening in these water bodies. And if I look at the aggregate dynamics, we are able to see about 8 to 10,000 square kilometers of change in this region. So that was one change. Here is another example of change, which is a very interesting pattern that happens in a number of rivers. We are looking at river Ucayali in this portion of South America. And what we see is that all along the river, there are red and green dots appearing together. What they suggest is that the water is increasing and decreasing together. And actually, the real phenomena is that the water is getting displaced. The course of the river is changing, that is leading to these red and green dots. So to verify that, we can zoom into some of these regions, and we can see the narrow river and its sediments around it. And there are red and green dots all along the river. If I look at a red dot, here is an increasing time series. A green would have a decreasing time series. And if I look at the time lapse, I'll be able to verify the changes happening in the course of the river. And here is another example of a different region. Now, these changes happen because of a number of reasons. One of them is changes in the sediment structure of the rivers. What this system enables is to quantify the intensity of river meandering over time. Here is one more example, which is of dam constructions in Brazil. So we see that whenever the dam is constructed, there is a sudden inundation in the reservoir that shows up as a sudden increase in the time series, area time series of this region. So to identify dam constructions, we came up with a very simple score, and you can put a threshold on the score and find candidate dam constructions. So we did that and compared our results with the state-of-the-art product, which is called as the GRAND product, which is part of an international collaboration effort, which finds about 35 dams globally to be constructed after 2001. And we are able to find, using our remote sensing-based approach, orders of magnitude more dams than what is reported by GRAND. So just to show a scale of differences, the black dots are the dams reported by GRAND, out of which we are able to find 30. We are missing 5 because of poor data quality. But there are 671 more dams that we are finding, and each one of these has been verified by our team. That shows the scale of knowledge gap that can be filled by remote sensing data. So with that, I'd like to summarize. There are a number of potential use cases. We would like this data can be used to quantify water stocks and its risks in the future. It can be used to find river changes and a number of other types of changes in surface water. And we would like to integrate this information with hydrological models to study the water cycle, and with the food, energy, water nexus models to understand the nexus. Thank you.
Let's take a question or two.
Thank you. It's a very interesting talk. I just wanted to ask, how does your model perform with ice cover?
With?
Ice.
Ice? Oh, yeah. So ice is a major challenge, ice and snow, because it's very difficult to distinguish that from water, especially using multispectral remote sensing data. So what we have been working, what we have done is, for water bodies that are seasonally covered by snow and ice, we are able to see the dynamics only in the summer seasons, especially for the glacial lakes. We would be only looking at the changes happening in the summer seasons. So that gets us away from that problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So this is actually a general policy question that's perhaps relevant to not just but many other talks as well. How do we make these things actionable? I mean, how do you close the loop here? This is, I think, very useful analytical models we're developing that are producing all these useful insights.
Right.
How do you close the loop?
I think this is the first stage where we first generate the data, and the second stage is then to release the data, to make it accessible to the public so that they can see the water bodies in their own backyard and see how it's changing. So generating public awareness is important, and this would also lead to policymakers to work on it.
So just to follow up on this, so the question is, how can it sort of lead to the next step? Yeah. So you saw the Tonle Sap project with Boston University, and that's exactly their interest in this. So, one of the big fear they have is the dam construction upstream on Mekong is tremendously impacting the fishing downstream. Now, if you have some studies that can relate this on a global scale, then that sort of has an impact. You saw the river meanderings. Yeah. Now, the hypothesis in the ecology, in the hydrology is that it's when deforestation is done, then there are more sediment that sort of flows through the rivers, and that causes more of these meanderings. Yeah. So the third thing is looking at the impact of climate change. You saw the Tibet lakes, right? So what I'm saying is that this enables the next step of question that people can answer using
preventive controls.
Exactly.
So it sort of provides transparency. Great. So let's thank the speaker. And I think you are next.